Good morning, everyone. I'm Joanne Thomas, and I lead our admissions and financial aid and marketing for our master's programs in the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences. Thank you so much for joining us, all of you. We really appreciate it, and wanted to present to you today on the process and give you guidance and resources and allow you to ask questions on the process for graduate financial aid. We know that many of you come to us directly from undergrad, or perhaps when you were completing your FAFSA, doing your loan applications for undergrad, perhaps you had a lot of assistance from your parents, and maybe this is the first time you're kind of doing it on your own, or perhaps it's been a while since you've looked at financial aid. So we just want to make sure you have everything you need, and if at any point you have any questions, please know we are here to help you throughout the process. Before we actually start the presentation, though, I wanted to just take a moment to say congratulations to everyone. We really had a record number of applications this year for our master's programs, and of particularly high quality. So it is quite an accomplishment that you were admitted, and we're really excited that you'll be joining us. I also just want to take a moment to say that, I hope that from wherever you happen to be joining us today, that you and your families and friends are all safe and doing very well, your health and mental well-being. So challenging times that we live in, right? But we're all pushing through together, which is fantastic. I'm going to turn things over in a couple of minutes to Brittany, who many of you may have already been in conversation with, but Brittany is our resident financial aid expert, and she will be the one working most closely with you to process your paperwork and to put together your package for aid. So she's going to walk you through sort of an overview of everything, what the process looks like, particularly specifically for us in GRS. Talk to you about some, resources that are available in addition to federal loans, etc. Take a look at what your eligibility is in general. Kind of go through all of those things step by step in walking through the slides, and we will leave plenty of time at the end of the session for questions. You can just type everything into the chat box, and I am here, Brittany is here. Many of you know Patrick Donahue already, my assistant director. He's here to answer questions. We also have Emma with us, our graduate student worker, who is a grad student currently, and she works with us in our office. So she has been through this process and can be helpful as well from a student perspective. I think all of us here have been through this process, so we may have some knowledge to learn from our own experience, as well as how things go in GRS. So plenty of time at the end for questions. Also feel free throughout. Brittany, of course, will be leading the presentation, but others here who are in the group can pop in and answer your questions while she's talking, if that's feasible. And then also, I just wanted to mention, we are not on campus right now for the rest of the summer, but Brittany will be offering specific hours of virtual office time. So where you can set up, she can speak more to this in a bit, but you can set up a time for a private Zoom call with her, Zoom meeting like this, or you can just do a phone call. She's available by email all the time, as all of us are, and you'll have all of our contact information in addition to the GRS aid email. So a lot of information to go through, but once again, congratulations, welcome, and I'm going to turn it over to Brittany right now.
Hi everyone, my name is Brittany Boss and I am the Master's Admissions and Financial Aid Associate. So we talked a little bit about financial aid in previous virtual info sessions, But today we'll just be going a little bit deeper and discussing how to get the financial aid process in place for the fall semester. So this first slide talks about the different types of graduate financial aid, the main source being two different federal loans. The first is the federal direct unsubsidized loan, which was referred to as the Stafford loan. We recommend this loan to students first. It has an annual max of $20,500, which includes the fall semester, the spring semester, and the summer session if you plan on taking summer courses. It has a lower interest rate than the Federal Direct Plus loan, which is the second loan that we recommend for students. The Plus loan is a credit-based loan, which means that students do go through a credit check, and then once they're approved, they can borrow up to the remainder of their cost of attendance. It does have a little bit of a higher interest rate than the Federal Direct Unsubsidized loan, and so typically students will use a combination of both of these loans to fund their education for the academic year. Repayment of these loans might be familiar to you from undergrad. Repayment doesn't begin until 6 months after you drop below 6 credits. So 6 months after graduation is when students will start to make payments on their loans. And I do want to note that the standard repayment plan is about 10 years. Of course, you can do it faster than that as well, but 10 years is the standard repayment plan. We will also be speaking to the last few bullet points about private loans and merit scholarships later in this presentation. So in terms of how much can I borrow, these are the two main numbers for this: the cost of attendance and total aid. Total aid consists of any merit scholarships, external scholarships, private loans, and service-free stipends, which makes up one number. And then the other number is the cost of attendance, which includes tuition and fees, room and board, and a handful of other expenses that we will talk about in the next slide. So essentially, we take your cost of attendance and subtract your total aid to find the amount that you would be eligible to borrow in loans. For example, if the cost of attendance is $80,000 and you're receiving $20,000 in total aid, then you'd be eligible to borrow $60,000 in loans. So that's just an easy example to kind of give you an idea of how this works. And then the next slide outlines the cost of attendance for the 2020 to 2021 academic year, which is for the 9-month period. The top three numbers are billable expenses, and these appear on your student account. These include tuition, fees for student services, and health and wellness, which are resources on campus that you will have access to for the academic year. And then also medical insurance. And medical insurance is something that you can choose to waive if you're already covered under your parent or spouse's insurance. This is something that can be done on the student link. And once it's waived, this number would not be factored into your cost of attendance, and it will not appear on your student account. The numbers listed under living expenses aren't billed to your account, but we do take them into consideration as expenses that you will have outside of the cost of the academic expenses. So these include things like room and board, transportation costs, books and supplies, and additional things like that. So I do want to note that these are the average costs that are listed. Many students don't spend this amount of money depending on their lifestyle choices, but these are just built in to give students space to borrow loans. Oops. So yeah, it just gives students space to borrow loans, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you'll be spending this amount throughout the academic year. The bottom number shows the total cost of attendance, which is the number that we use to determine the amount that can be borrowed in loan funding. So In terms of determining eligibility, there are a number of criteria to consider, as you can see listed. First of all, you have to be a US citizen or permanent resident or an eligible non-citizen. You must be enrolled in a degree program at least half-time, and the credits must count towards your degree. You have to be registered with the Selective Service. You can't owe a refund on a federal grant or be in default on any previous educational loans. You must be making satisfactory academic progress towards your degree, and you can't exceed the maximum borrowing limit for the federal direct loan. And then lastly, you must meet the credit criteria if you borrow the Federal Plus loan. Okay, so in terms of the federal loan maximums that I briefly mentioned in the past slide, you can borrow up to the $20,500 per year with the federal direct Stafford loan. And that does include the fall semester, the spring semester, and the summer session. The aggregate loan limit for graduate students is $138,500, which includes graduate and undergraduate borrowing. And if you're curious about your previous loan borrowing record, or if you're wondering if you are close to that aggregate borrowing limit, you can access your record online actually at nslds.edu.gov, which we have listed here on the slide. And then for the Federal Plus loan, we just look at your cost of attendance and total aid. So there's not necessarily a limit for the Plus loan, and students typically use this loan to cover the gap of what isn't covered by the federal direct unsubsidized Stafford loan. I do also want to note that whatever loans you request disperse into 2 equal installments at the beginning of each semester. So for an easy example, if you requested $20,000, it will disperse $10,000 in the fall and the other $10,000 in the spring. It doesn't disperse the whole $20,000 at the start of the fall semester. This applies to both the federal direct loan and the federal plus loan. If you do have a valid credit balance on your student account once the loans disperse, you can request a refund for that amount to use the money for housing and living expenses that were outlined in the previous slide. You can do this on the student link on or after the first day of classes. And these funds will be directly deposited into your US bank account. So as a side note to that, you will need to set up the direct deposit option on your student link so that these funds will be directly deposited to your bank account. And then on the next slide, we'll go through the steps that students take to apply for loans. There are essentially 3 steps that are pretty easy. The first step is to file the FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid. You can see a picture of it here on this slide. It may be familiar to you from undergrad as well. You do have to submit a new FAFSA each year that you apply for loans. So if you apply for loans this academic year and continue your schooling into a second year, then you will need to submit a new FAFSA for your second year. If you go to fafsa.edu.gov, you can begin this process using the Boston University School Code 002130. I also want to note that the IRS data retrieval tool is very helpful for students because it shortens the process and it imports a lot of information that you might not know off of the top of your head. So that is very helpful to use that. And if you do have any questions about this process or run into any troubles, you can contact us at the phone number listed or email us at grsaid@bu.edu. So then after submitting the FAFSA, the next step is to submit loan request forms, which I will show on the next slide. Maybe. Patrick, do you have the ability to go back? It's not showing on mine. There we go. So, oh, one more actually. Forward. Yes, thank you. Sorry guys, I don't know why it's going crazy. So after submitting the FAFSA, this is the next step. Similarly, this must be done each year that you want to apply for loans. We have two separate forms, one for the federal direct loan and one for the federal plus loan. The federal direct unsubsidized loan will be available to complete online, and the link to access this form will be emailed to you all soon, hopefully by the end of this week. If not, then early next week. The direct plus loan, which is shown here, can be sent to us via email at grsaid@bu.edu. For security purposes, we do recommend that you do not write your social security number on this form. And so after you submit the form to us, then you can call us to relay your number to us. And this is just to protect your personal information. So the next slide shows the third step, which is to complete the master promissory note and entrance counseling. You probably had to do these if you previously borrowed loans in undergrad, but as a new graduate student, you have to complete these again. This can be done on the Federal Student Aid website at the link listed on this slide. It won't take long to complete them, and it's fairly straightforward. I do want to note to be sure to select the Graduate Professional Students tab instead of the Undergraduate Students tab. And then also you will need to complete both the Master Promissory Note and the entrance counseling for both the Federal Direct Unsubsidized Loan and the Federal Plus Loan if you plan to borrow both. So to wrap it up, once you complete all of these steps, our financial aid team will begin processing your loan requests, and these funds will be applied to your account around the billing period, which will be after you enroll for your classes. And again, you can't request a refund for the excess amount until the first day of classes, but you will be able to see your account on your student link. So on the next slide, we will talk about private loans. BU has done some cross-referencing with different private lenders to look at the competitive prices. You aren't required to borrow from one of these lenders, but the prices may be competitive compared to some of the other options. We also recommend that you compare credit-based loans, as you can only choose one credit-based loan per year. So we really want to encourage you to find the one that is the best fit for you, as they might have different rates and different repayment plans. We also have a couple of resources at the bottom of this slide that might be helpful in calculating repayment plans over the course of 10 to 15 years. Keep in mind that once you graduate with a master's degree, you will be making more money with your degree, and that's something that you can factor into these repayment plans, and kind of take a look at that with the repayment estimate calculators. And the next slide is about outside scholarships that students have found helpful in the past. So listed on this slide are links to different scholarship search websites that may offer different scholarships depending on where you live geographically, what program you're studying, depending on your gender or ethnic background. There are a lot of opportunities available, but it is something that entails you to kind of dig in and research these websites to find some scholarship opportunities that might apply to you. The last bullet on this slide is your personalized URL, which is something that you have access to when you submit your application. And if that's something that you don't have access to currently, please reach out to us and we will be happy to send you a link to that. So yeah, definitely feel free to take a look at all of the resources we have listed here to try to figure out what the best package is for you for your grad program. And on this slide, we have some different important dates that we want to bring to your attention. We recommend that you complete all of the processes listed by July 15th. And we say this date just because that gives our financial aid team to look through your application and follow up if more information is needed from you to process your requests, and to put everything into place for the funds to be released to your account on time. September 2 is the first day of classes, and it's also the earliest possible date to request a refund. And the payment deadline for all incoming students is September 18th. So you'll have plenty of time to get settled into your academic year before paying your tuition and fees. And you'll just first have a chance to get acclimated to being on our campus at Boston University. On our next slide, we have listed a number of other helpful resources, which I know some of you are probably looking at right now. Housing is a big one, which will factor into your cost of attendance. So we have listed here a link to off-campus services, which allows you to link up with other students that are looking for housing. And they also have some reasonable prices as well. From our experience, we do know that Boston is such a great city, but real estate isn't necessarily cheap here. So that being said, keep in mind that there are housing options that range in price, and we encourage you to find something that fits within your budget. Personally, I live in a nice, spacious house in Somerville with 3 other roommates for a fraction of the price that I could spend on a luxury studio apartment right downtown. So this is just something to be aware of, and I know that there are different options to fit your needs. And all of the staff on this call live here or near Boston, so if you do have any questions about safety or accessibility or housing options in a specific part of town, yeah, please don't hesitate to reach out to us and ask, and we will help you out with the information that we do have about that. And then we also have different sources of entertainment. The BU Arts Initiative helps students find art venues around the city that are affordable or free. And these students also get free admission to the Museum of Fine Arts. The BU Fit Rec is the gym facility on our campus. Students who enroll full-time automatically have membership to the Fit Rec as part of the tuition and fees. The Fit Rec has a lot of great resources and workout classes. They also offer wellness classes if you're looking to de-stress. There's also a very cool rock wall that you can sign up for. There's a track in there that you can run around in. There's a pool. Yeah, so I definitely recommend that you check out the Fit Rec. We also have a link to the budget worksheet here that can help you look at the bigger picture financially for the time spent here for your schooling. And then the last resource is our graduate education resources website, which is for all of Boston University. There's a lot of really great helpful resources for not only enrollment and housing, but for all different areas across BU. So it might be a good website to poke around at and just get used to the resources that they have there so that you can be prepared for when you do come to campus. So yeah, that concludes our presentation. And now I want to turn it over to you guys and your questions. I see that you have been asking questions in the chat box, so please continue to do that, or you can unmute yourself and we will do our best to address them. I also want to mention that we do understand that finances are a bit of a personal matter. So I will be holding virtual private meetings to further discuss your personal situations and to help you through the loan process, as I know it can feel overwhelming at first. So if you'd be interested in having a personal discussion, you can email us at grsaid@bu.edu to schedule a time to chat. And typically these discussions don't take longer than 15 minutes. So it can be a quick meeting, or it can be longer than that if you do have a lot of questions to work through.
Hi, Brittany. I just want to hop in real quick. Sorry, everyone, for the clicking around through the presentation. I think my mouse is having some technical difficulties today. I just wanted to note, I know we covered it in our previous slide, there will be an online form for the direct unsubsidized loan. So we will include the link for that form later this week, which will also send out the link to the presentation slides as well as a recording of the presentation. So you'll have all of those documents on hand to be able to start the financial aid process and start some of those steps that Brittany's covered.
Right, I see a question about the options for financial aid for international students. Typically, international students will have loans, and I can send you a link to some loans that are available to international students. I'll put that right in the chat box here. Other opportunities for international students might come in the form of fellowships or assistantships or scholarships from their department. So that's something that you'd want to reach out directly to your specific department about. But typically they will fund their education by taking out loans or working part-time jobs.
Hi, I wanted to jump in here on that too. So, as we all know, our Boston economy, things have started to open up again, but it's rather uncertain as to what things will look like in the city. So completely transparently, often a lot of our international students find part-time jobs around town if their academic schedule isn't too heavy for them and they're able to do that. We honestly don't know what that will look like exactly this year, but there are some opportunities on campus and departments as people have been talking about. Also, I know, like in particular in our economics master's programs, a lot of our students find a good deal of work as tutors, tutoring undergraduate students. So, that's something, if you're a really excellent student, that you can look into as well. That maybe wouldn't, take as much of your time, and even something that you could probably do like virtually through something like this if you wanted to. So yeah, so just a couple of thoughts on that.
Hi guys, I'm Emma. I'm a graduate assistant in the GRS office, and I'm going to be a second year master's student this coming academic year. And there was a question in the chat about applying for teaching assistantships or research assistantships, so I can speak to that a little bit. I was a research assistant for a professor in the fall semester last year, and I got that position through my department actually sent out an email prior to the start of the semester. I think it was in mid-August, with the application, and it was for anybody who was interested in being a research assistant for the fall semester. So I just filled out the application and sent it back in, and I was offered a position. And I think every department is a little bit different in how they go about getting research assistants. You might have to be a little proactive if you want a position like that and actually reach out to the department yourself and see if any professors are looking for assistants. TAs are a little bit different. TAs are mostly reserved for PhD students, but you can sometimes find a position like that. I would recommend, if you want to be a TA, try to make some connections with students in your program who are already TAs and see if they can possibly pass that position on to you after they graduate. Most TAs aren't first-year students, so yeah, pretty much just talk to people, look out for emails from your department about any open positions. So yeah, that's my advice.
I just want to quickly, this is sort of to Emma's point, but also to, as Joanne was mentioning, that Boston is a very college city since there are so many college campuses there. So a lot of the nearby restaurants and shops and whatnot do hire a lot of college students, since college students make up a good portion of the city itself. So there's lots of opportunities outside of the campus for students to find employment as well. So I know we have talked a lot about the financial aid process, but this is also a really great time if you guys have questions about housing or campus life or things that you're curious about. We're happy to answer those questions as well. Sure, so there's a question about the dining plans. So I would say, and maybe Emma can speak to this as well, typically graduate students don't enroll in the dining plans. So undergraduate students, it's sort of an automatic part of the process when they're considering to live in a dorm, but graduate students aren't automatically enrolled in any sort of dining plan. They can opt into one if they want to and they find that they use dining halls pretty frequently. But I would say that typically students don't enroll in a dining plan for the year.
Yeah, usually grad students don't have dining plans. Most of the places on campus, you can actually use cash or credit or debit cards. So you can, like the George Sherman Union, which is the big building in the center of campus. There's a lot of dining options in there. You can use cash. There's a lot of restaurants on Comm Ave where you can just pay with regular cash or credit cards. So I would say most grad students don't use the dining halls. Those are usually just for undergrads. But you can, if you want to, you can opt into a dining plan, like Patrick said.
So to answer, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing this wrong, Naven's question, it may vary by student. So I definitely recommend if you want to reach out to myself or Brittany, we can take a closer look. It will vary by program depending on the options for a fall. So if you reach out, we can take a closer look and let you know what that will look like.
Hello everyone, it's Candace here. I see a question from Tanya about commuting from outside of Boston. I do live about 25 miles outside of Boston, about 20 minutes driving, but when I go to work, I live very close by to a commuter rail, and that take me directly to the city in North Station, and after that, I just hop on the Green Line. The total travel time takes me about 45 minutes to an hour, depends on the schedule. So it's pretty easy, and I enjoy the commuter rail. It's very clean, and you usually get a seat. So it's really not that hard. So if you consider living a little far out of the city, it's definitely doable. And I know Emma lives outside of Boston as well, and she commutes to class every day, no problem. Hope this is helpful.
Yeah, I take the train, the commuter rail, so it's super easy. I like it. The only thing I would say if you're planning on commuting by car is be careful with the times that you're driving into campus, because traffic in the morning tends to be horrible, and it may take you a lot longer than you think it's going to take you if you're driving in. If you live in a town outside of Boston that has access to subway stations, I would recommend driving to the subway station, parking your car there, and then taking that into the city. It will probably save you a lot of time in the long run. But if you are driving in, parking in and around BU tends to not be as bad as other areas in the city, but that's something to consider too. You might want to buy a parking pass.
Hi, Allie. To your question about wheelchair accessibility, that's a great question. And we can't really help you with that because we don't offer graduate on-campus housing for our students. So you would have to, as you're looking for your place, kind of check that out individually. It is, of course, law, though, that whoever is managing the real estate management company, whoever it is, has to provide you that information. So if there's somewhere specific that you have a question about, that if any of us knows the answer, we can certainly help you. But you know, a question to just ask right up front as you're exploring your options.
Just to sort of go off that, and I know there was another question that was asked, I think, by Jewel. In terms of the timeline for the housing process, you could start it now in terms of looking for options. There are a number of apartments that are opening up throughout the summer. So you could start the process now. You could do it in July and August. There will be plenty of options open throughout the summertime. So you're more than welcome to start the process now. And as things sort of open up, you can monitor it from there. And one of the things that I would note as well, that we've had another presentation, is just to be open and honest with your questions for any landlords. If there are any specific housing accommodations that you're looking for, to let them know ahead of time. That way they can sort of look into it and make sure that the housing option for you is the best fit.
To clarify, someone had a question around grad housing at BU. And we do offer grad housing. We are not offering it to any incoming students this year. As you are well aware, I'm sure, we are under guidance of the state of Massachusetts and the city of Boston, and have teams that are working very hard on campus to satisfy the necessary density protocol for everyone's safety. So this has caused us to need to kind of limit at every level for undergraduate and graduate the availability of housing. So at this point, we are not offering any on-campus housing for our incoming graduate students.
To quickly cover Christopher's question about loan deferment, if you just recently graduated in May 2020, so students who graduate, they'll have 6 months for loan deferment, and since you'll be enrolling for the fall, that deferment will carry through. So they'll notify the provider, and then your loans will go into deferment for your graduate program as well.
Okay, question about CPT for international students on F1 visa. Excellent question, and we are all asking the same question as well, right? So as you all know, this spring, when we were forced to go to remote learning because of the pandemic, DHS was very lenient with the regulations. So our international students were able to move to remote learning. That is not, and without any impact on, their OPT or CPT eligibility. Our International Student and Scholars Office is working very closely with our government agencies who grant visas, who regulate all of this, as you know, with your CVIS record and your visa. And we do not yet have guidance. If you are an international student and you are attending, you are starting in the fall remotely from your home country, it is unclear to us yet at this point. We are quite hopeful and anticipate that because this is going to be the case at the majority of institutions in the US, that they will, if you're studying full-time remotely from your country in the fall, that will count as your first semester of full-time enrollment. You're required to complete 2 semesters of full-time enrollment in your academic program. So we're quite hopeful that will happen, but I cannot guarantee that 100% right now. So great question, but I will say, we are kind of hoping for this answer on a daily basis, and I'm in close touch with our managing director of our international students program. So as soon as we know, we will send out an email communication, we'll post things on the website. So hopefully an answer to that soon. We understand your concern for sure. There was something else. Oh, Caitlin had asked, in terms of opting to attend classes remotely, will that be a choice to make once courses start, or is it something we have to plan? Another question that we are trying to figure out currently right now. You will know more over the summer. Things are just starting to be put in place. All of our programs are putting all of the technology, all of the planning in place to make sure that everything is done smoothly, that your courses are offered at the highest level and according to pedagogical standards at BU. So that's in place. They're getting advising sessions in place. All of this is happening, and that will be with your departments that communication happens. But typically, this sort of thing we'll probably be finding out by the beginning of August. So again, as we know more, we will be sure to share it with you. But we don't have a true answer to that yet.
I see that Griffin has a question about scholarship and TA position payments. So the scholarship is something that will be applied directly to your student account. You should be able to see this under the Money Matters tab on your student link. And then the TA position is something that you will receive a paycheck for every Friday once you begin that position. So if you have direct deposit set up, then that will just go directly into your bank account.
I'm happy to speak to the plan for remote learning. It will vary by program, but let me say that, the main reason this is put into place is because, there have been visa challenges for our international students. So we want to make sure that even if you can't get a visa in time to join us to start the semester on campus in September, that you're able to join us and start your master's program remotely from wherever you are. So, of course, as we're developing plans, the time difference is a major concern. So it will depend on your program. Some programs may be offering a recorded lecture for all of our students, and then they may be offering a discussion section at a time that is, conducive to where you are. If it's a 12-hour difference and you're in China, like whatever it happens to be. Some courses may involve 2 different sections of a lecture. Like, it all depends, but honestly, it is being built for you, with your interest and convenience in mind. Does that mean that you may have to attend an 8 a.m. class, which may not be your ideal, or a 7 p.m. class? It might mean that. We have a lot of students and a lot of courses to set this up for, but definitely it is our priority to make sure that that it's convenient for you, that you're able to start your program and get all of your courses in your schedule that you need to progress and move through as planned. Folks, there's a question about deferral until January, and we do not offer deferral of admission in any of our programs. There's only one of our programs that actually has a January start, and that is the only one where this is a consideration. So it is not an option for our programs to defer until January. I'll jump in on this one too. Sorry, I speak more quickly than I type, so I just rather address it this way. Maybe everyone can hear it as well. A timetable for the extent of the availability of remote learning is an excellent question, and something that the administration is exploring. The way that I see it personally, once everything is in place, it is in place, and if the need should arise for us to remote learning, then I would assume that that would be an option. We are all, none of us has a crystal ball in this situation, unfortunately. We're all doing our best, as I said, for our students, as our #1 priority, and for our faculty and staff, of course, to keep everybody safe and well and make sure that they have all of the resources that they need to be successful in their programs. So today, I don't have an answer for you. I know that that's the definite option for the fall, for the bulk of our programs, and what will happen from there, more information will come forth as we learn more about protocols from our state and our city, and these consortiums of higher institutions of learning in the Boston area that our president and provost are very involved in. So some of these decisions are being made as we speak right now, right? So, and some of them we just don't have enough information on yet. We just don't know what the future of things might look like. So again, another one that we have our ear to the ground on, and we'll keep you informed as soon as we know. Great question though. Folks, I just wanted to jump in. We have about 5 minutes for any burning questions. Feel free to ask them. And if not, as Brittany and Patrick mentioned, please feel free to follow up with any of us with any questions that you might have. We are happy to respond as soon as we can via email, or jump on a phone call, or jump on a private Zoom meeting with any of you at any time. So keep in touch. You know, don't be silent about your questions. This is an important time. We know that you're really busy making all of your plans, and we want to be a resource to you. So reach out to us with any of your questions, as we discussed before: neighborhoods, housing, remote learning, any of it. If we don't know the answer, we'll be sure to get it for you as soon as we can. So thanks all for attending, and we'll hang out for a few minutes here. And if there were no more questions, we'll hope to hear from you soon.
I also just want to say one last thing about remote learning. Since I did it for half of this past semester, we started in about mid-March with that. So it kind of was a quick switch from being in the classroom to taking all my classes at home on my computer. But it really went very smoothly. All the professors were great. Everyone was very understanding. There's a lot of international students in my classes. Professors are very accommodating to them. And now that all the professors have had kind of this crash course in remote learning, I think it'll be a lot smoother in the fall. So if any of you guys need to do that for the whole semester or to start the semester, don't let that affect whether or not you do your program, because it really is not as bad as you might be expecting it to be. It's really not bad at all, in my opinion. And yeah, if anybody has any questions for me about my experience with it, or just wants to talk about any concerns they might have, you can email me at the GRS admissions email. I'll put that in the chat, or we can Zoom, whatever. I'm here for you guys, so I'll put the email in the chat for all you guys.
I do see a question asking about affordable housing near campus. I'm a little bit biased because I live in Somerville and I love it, but it is also one of the cheapest affordable housing that I have been able to find. And it is relatively close to campus as well. It's just across the river, a little bit past the Harvard Square area. And so that's the cheapest I've been able to find. It is very accessible via transportation, the T, and biking as well. So that's definitely an option, but some of the other staff members might be able to speak to this as well.
Hello everyone, Candice again. So just add to that neighborhood question. When I was living in Boston, many of my friends live in Austin area, and I live on the E-line, Green Line train. That is also very convenient. Just need to take the Green Line, the city, and then transfer. So I think the further out you get on the train, the more affordable the housing will be. So it really depends on how much time you want to spend riding on the train.
Just to quickly build off of that as well, as I'm sure you probably find, a lot of the neighborhoods have their own personality and style. So oftentimes it's really just finding the best match for you in terms of your price range, but also what you're looking for in terms of your neighborhood. After I graduated from undergrad, I attended BU. I lived in Brighton, which is a lot of younger graduates as well as some smaller families. So that was a nice place to live right after. And that was a bus ride onto campus each day, which was like 30 to 45 minutes. I now currently live in Brookline, which is right next to BU's campus. I walk to work every day. And that has its own personality as well. I live really close to this area called Coolidge Corner, which has a number of shops, as well as an older movie theater, which has a number of events, and a bookstore, which I read all the time. So bookstores are very important in terms of what I was looking for. But feel free to take a look at some of our websites, which outline a lot of the neighborhoods there. We're also happy to connect you to people who might live in those neighborhoods that we know that can provide more information. I know one of our other graduate assistants, Mita, currently lives in Austin, so she has a lot of really good experiences there as well. And she can be reached via the same email that Emma posted, the grsmams@bu.edu. So I think we'll wrap up the presentation. Thank you guys for all of your great questions, and thanks to Brittany for leading us through the presentation. Feel free to reach out to any of us with any further questions. And I do want to note that we'll be having some upcoming Q&A sessions throughout the month as well. And for those, you can pop in and ask any questions that are at the top of your mind. We'll all be there happy to answer any of your questions that you have. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your day.